We want to help you make great software. It's Chef's vision that amazing companies use Chef to become great software shops. Building great software is not a guarantee of business success, but it sure helps. Every industry on the planet right now is thirsty for great software to touch their customers, their employees, their partners. And as you know, this is easier said than done. It wasn't so long ago that companies simply outsourced software development. Confidence was so low, they didn't even want to do it themselves. But times have really changed. This is my third ChefConf. I joined the Chef team in early 2013. Early on, I had a chance to visit with a bunch of customers and prospects. And there's one story that particularly stuck in my mind. At this company, the IT group had the drabbest building on the whole campus. It felt dusty. It was a place where people sort of shuffled around slowly. The past decade for this group had featured a cycle of outsourcing and cost reduction, and also some failed IT projects. The team was under these huge dual piles of work in progress and unmet new project demand. Some on the team seemed like they were simply riding it out until retirement. And while it didn't exactly read like Gene's book, Project Phoenix, it wasn't that far off. But there was this one person, a person who was infected with the promise of DevOps. He believed that DevOps, combined with modern software tooling, yes, Chef, could help transform their company from where they were into a high-functioning, high-velocity engine. He pictured the shop that embraced Kaizen and drove customer delight through a process of rapid development iteration. It wasn't the CIO or a VP or a director or a manager. He was just some dude on the IT team. I'm pretty sure some made fun of him. And why not? His vision was so disconnected with the reality of their situation. And leadership at the time wasn't helping. They didn't know what to think about DevOps. At best, I think they were skeptical. What a difference a year or two makes. When you visit this company today, you can't believe it's the same place. It's percolating with energy. It's not the same organization that it was 2 years ago, except amazingly, it mostly is. Yes, there's some new faces, some have left, but by and large, it's the same people. Some, I suspect, are in this room today. People that are working in a dramatically different way than they had in the past. The people were not the problem. Today, those people are driving innovation, and importantly, they're driving results for their business. And honestly, it wasn't an easy path from where they were 2 years ago. It was messy. You should know that. These transformation journeys are messy. At times, it seemed like the new way would fail. Our champion, like many of us, was imperfect. He made some mistakes for sure, but he did more things right. At Chef, we talk about doing the hard right things, and this guy kept doing those hard right things over and over and over again. And it started to work, and it started to take hold. And the new way started to infect others. And once you've had a taste of working at velocity, you never want to go back. It's the same as working with a 9-inch black and white monitor. I know, it's where I started. And then going to a 27-inch high-def display. You don't want to go backwards. It's the same with speed. This is a true story. It's about a company with revenue somewhere between $10 and $20 billion. But I suspect more than one of you may be thinking, hey, he's telling my story. And to a degree, I am. It's the story of many of us in this room. You all have ignited something that is changing entire companies and entire industries. That's what this conference is about. It's creating a place to support you all in those journeys. It's a conference dedicated to the craft of building great software. And for the chef community, for all of you, for all of us, this is really our time. And the one thing that I especially love about this community is how inclusive you are. I've witnessed so many acts of kindness where you've been generous in sharing with others outside your own organization to help them in their own journeys. And I want to echo Nathan's comments. Let's please do everything we can to welcome ChefConf first-timers and make sure they have a great experience here as well. This is a very rewarding time for us all. For starters, our world is completely exploding. The sheer surface area of IT is expanding at an unprecedented rate. Every business has concluded that, to some meaningful degree, they're in the software business. I'm staying at the Hyatt next door. I don't know if you noticed, when you logged onto Wi-Fi, you can now order room service actually through their web portal. I love it. Companies like Ford and Target, GE and Disney, these are the next generation of software powerhouses. And as they morph into software companies, they're struggling with the same physics that have bedeviled all of us in the software world. There's a classic trade-off you've had to make in software, and it's one that's actually very difficult to navigate. Many ships have sunk in that software ocean. It's that trade-off between speed and quality. If you count Apple as a software company, and I think they are, I've spent my entire career in software. And as many of you have, I've been part of a conversation hundreds, maybe 1,000 times about when to ship software. Ship quickly, ship too quickly, quality suffers. Take too long, you miss your market window. I've seen my share of spit fly over these debates, and I've been, frankly, at companies that have gotten it wrong on both sides. But there's this powerful pattern that has emerged. It lets software teams simultaneously increase both velocity and quality. And this pattern has three key elements. The first is cloud. And all cloud really means, I think, is I want to spend less calories on infrastructure. And it doesn't matter whether it's private or hybrid or public. The second is automate your entire software stack. And third is DevOps. And DevOps is kind of an interesting term, and it's a term that's been appropriated for many reasons by many groups now. And for my purposes, I'm going to define DevOps as the culture, tooling, and workflow to deliver software at velocity. Get your teams maniacally focused on business outcomes. And then you got to work hard to get the culture, workflow, and tooling right. And these things reinforce each other in both positive and negative ways. Culture impacts the tooling. Tooling impacts the workflow. And by the way, it's not easy getting these things right. It's really tough. But this community, with others, is in fact the ones that pioneered this pattern. And Adam's going to talk about this in more detail in his keynote tomorrow. This community literally has helped change the physics of the software game. We're in a new era in software, an era without those traditional trade-offs. And if you do it right, you not only simultaneously increase both velocity and quality, but you also pull along safety and security. This is the underpinnings of innovating at velocity. And oh yeah, this too. There's a very good chance you'll save money, sometimes an extraordinary amount of money on this journey. I believe this is why DevOps and this is why Chef is taking root so strongly. And let's talk about results for a second. Companies like GE, who you'll hear from later this morning, they don't invest heavily in these things because it's fashionable. They do it because it drives results. And you can see results in Chef's own journey. The acceleration of our own financial growth has coincided exactly with the acceleration of our own software development velocity. We've been on a tear the last couple of years. Not only in 2014 did we ship more software than ever, but we finished the year with something like 195% growth of our annual recurring revenue. But more interesting than Chef's results is your collective results for those of you that are mature in your DevOps adoption. The numbers actually are stunning. You may have seen that we hired Dr. Nicole Forsgren, who's done some amazing research on IT and specifically on DevOps. And I don't want to run through all the research, but here's the headlines. For those of you that are mature in your DevOps transformation, you ship more software, you ship it faster, by the way, 8,000 times faster. And that's from when a developer commits code to you shipping it to a customer, 8,000 times. You deal with problems better, you make more money, and your stock grows faster. And software isn't just for business. The public sector is starting to get into the software game in a big way. In my hometown, the city of Seattle has a Find It, Fix It application. If you see something in the city that needs fixing, they have an app and they have a team to go after it. Potholes, abandoned vehicles, burned out streetlights. They're using software to drive high-velocity government. We're abandoning this era of everything takes forever and broken things don't get fixed. Think about it. In the past, who even would have known who to call if your streetlight's out? Or would you believe anything would happen if you did call the city? Do you see the Seattle police just hired Amazon's CIO? In the old world of traditional IT, a tech CIO wouldn't have gone to work for a police department. The future is waiting for us to define it. And velocity is going to be the currency of this new world. What business wants is to decrease the time it takes to convert an idea into value. That's it. But velocity is not just about innovation and financial results. It also is about security and safety. And let me give you some context. There's this idea emerging that IT ought to run at 2 speeds. Dual speed IT, it's called. And to a degree, this term accurately describes what's going on in the IT world right now. There are these new IT groups. These are the digital-first groups doing things in web and mobile. They're pushing rapid innovation. They're adopting DevOps. And then you have traditional IT. And for the record, I cut my own teeth in traditional IT. And in defense of traditional IT, they actually run the business today. Everything from email to ERP to cash registers. At a big company, there may be over 1,000 legacy apps that have been built over the past couple of decades. This is the slow side of the speed divide. And there's legitimate historic reasons these groups operate at the pace they do. But you should no longer accept slow, even in traditional IT. Dual speed IT is an end state. It's bullpucky. You actually want the same high velocity foundation for both new IT and traditional IT. You want the ability to ship software quickly, safely, and securely at any time, anywhere in the business. It does not mean you're going to ship software to your cash registers as frequently as you do to your website. But if you want to, you want to. For example, if you discover you're running an insecure version of OpenSSL, you want the ability to immediately and safely fix it before the bad people find it, including running it through your full test matrix. That's actually the point of testing. We're starting to see our progressive customers apply the concepts of continuous delivery not only to their systems of innovation, but also their core traditional IT systems. It's leading to some amazing outcomes, some expected, and frankly, some unexpected. I've asked a couple of our customers to join me and talk about their own journey. GE has been heavily investing over the last several years in creating in-house software engines. They've embraced DevOps and more recently also continuous delivery. One of their software hotspots is at GE Capital. I'd like to introduce Matt Merchant. Matt has been CTO of 2 different divisions at GE. He's run infrastructure at GE Capital, and he's currently the global managing director of DevOps. Matt and the GE Capital team have been amazing partners with Chef, and they've helped push us in many healthy ways. Matt, please join me.
Guys, Harry, how you doing? Thank you very much. All right. Good morning, ChefConf. Oh, audience participation, I love it. All right, that's all I'm going to ask you to do. The rest of it, you just get to sit back and listen. Hey, so I'm here today to talk with you guys about what we're doing at GE Capital on our DevOps initiative called ArcOps. ArcOps is based on 4 key pillars: DevOps itself, on the concepts of MVP, minimal viable product, on delivering on cloud infrastructure, and using continuous delivery and continuous deployment to push code through a pipeline. About 3 years ago, we decided at GE Capital that we really need to change the way we thought about developing, delivering, and maintaining software, especially if we wanted to remain competitive in the markets that we're in today and also become an employer of choice for the talent that's coming up through the ranks that we want to be able to hire. But we also realized that, you know what? You can't just go out and buy the latest copy of the latest tool, throw it on a server, and let it go. That's a recipe for shelfware, which at GE we've had our share of, but we've tried to correct. And so the way we're going to correct that is we're thinking about not only the technology, but how do we make organizational changes to support that environment? And what are the processes that we need to change to think about delivering software at a velocity that we're just not used to doing? So for us, a lot of that has to go back to changing kind of the processes. You know, we're a regulated entity. You've got to make sure at the end of the day you adhere to all the regulatory compliance rules that are out there. Because if you deliver stuff really fast and you don't have good audit trails, you don't have a good way to understand what you're delivering, you're going to fail. Okay? So you've got to change that thinking. So we brought our regulatory teams in, and our compliance teams and our governance teams in very early to the process so that we could sit there and actually take toll gates out and get rid of those manual processes so that we could deliver at velocity, yet at the same time remain compliant and secure. The other piece we did is we brought security in early. Security usually is an afterthought to a software developer, right? I mean, come on, let's be honest. So what we decided to do is change that paradigm and bring them in up front. Have them be part of the conversation. Have them help us build those reference architectures. Because now, if we build those reference architectures out, and those are the architectures we use to deploy every time because we're doing it consistently with Chef, they know that everything that they've designed in is going to be in the production system. And that's a big win for us. So what does that do for us? What's the so what? Okay, great, you got rid of some toll gates, you brought security in early. Who cares? Our customers care. And the reason they care is we can now deliver applications that used to take us 4 months to iterate through, and we can now do that in a matter of days. So think of the conversation. Yes, Mr. Customer, we want to change this application for you. We'll get back to you in sometime in early August and do the next release. Versus going to the customer and saying, hey, how'd you like it on Tuesday? And be able to give it to them on Tuesday in a very secure and compliant way. That's a huge customer delighter. That's why we want to do this stuff. We want to make a difference in the market and be able to take on everybody that's sitting out there. So that's one big thing we do. The second thing you've got to think about is how do you change the organizational culture? Changing organizational culture takes what I like to call institutional fortitude. You don't change culture in a weekend. You don't change it in 6 months. You don't change it in a year. It takes 3 to 5 years to think about changing the culture of what you're doing. You got to be in it for the long haul. So we have great leadership at the senior levels of our organization who understand this commitment. And they know that, you know what, we're going to have to invest in training. We're going to have to invest in hiring. We're going to have to bring people on and know that it's a long-term process to do this. So one of the big things that we're doing is we've created a DevOps certification program. We've modeled it after our Six Sigma programs from back in the 90s, where you assess people, you train them, and then you give them practical work experience to get them certified. Our 3-level program gets people trained, they then become practitioners, and then eventually mentors. To become a mentor is an 18-month process. Now, we're going to bring some guys on earlier who've been engaged in the process from day one, and they will then mentor the practitioners and the trainees that we're bringing through the organization. But what this does is it creates a DNA. It actually starts to alter the DNA of the teams. Because once we've put that team together, we then push them out into the organization. So they now go work with other teams. And over the course of a couple years, this has a huge multiplier effect. And that's where you start to try to gain leverage and start to really make a difference within the organization. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes, talk about kind of those couple key things that we do in the world of GE that we think is making a difference in DevOps and our ArcOps initiative. And that if you want to be successful, you can't just buy a new tool. As much as Barry and the guys would love you to just start writing checks to them, don't do just that. Think beyond that, okay? Think about how do we change the culture and how do we maintain governance by taking out those unnecessary toll gates and moving those artifacts right into the tool chain. If you can do that, you will be successful going down this journey. If you try to do it in bits and pieces and don't balance all 3 legs of the stool, that stool will never be able to bear the weight that you want to try to put on it, which is a huge weight. So make sure you take the time to do that properly. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Barry. Thank you, everybody. Have a great conference, and we'll catch up with you at some point.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And by the way, let me reinforce Matt's comments. What we really want to do at Chef is drive great outcomes with you. We want to make you successful. I tell the team all the time, focus on that, and the business issues, those just follow behind. Matt was talking about Chef Delivery, which we announced this morning, we may have seen. And I want to talk a minute and give some context on Chef Delivery. Chef has a significant body of learning how to and how not to operate at speed. And we want to be more prescriptive on recommending workflow to you that leads to good outcomes. That's what Chef Delivery is. We want to decrease the time and pain it takes to ship software. And I love a good demo. So I've asked a couple from our team to come up. Let me introduce James Casey and Seth Falcon, both from Chef. Many of you probably know. Seth Falcon is our engineering GM for Chef Delivery, and we've just recently announced that we've promoted James Casey to our new VP of Engineering. Please give me a very warm welcome for both.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Hello, ChefConf! Woo! I'm Seth Falcon. I am so excited to be here and to get to share Chef Delivery with all of you. We've been working on it for a while now and not talking about it, and so now I get to talk about it. Chef Delivery is a solution for continuously delivering infrastructure and applications. It has a proven workflow that allows you to take a change from a developer's workstation through automated testing and all the way out to production. One of the unique things that we've had here at Chef is an opportunity to work closely with our customers building continuous delivery pipelines. And so we've had an opportunity to see the things that do and do not work. And we've seen some patterns emerge among successful software organizations that allows them to deliver software rapidly, collaboratively, and safely. And we've distilled these patterns into Chef Delivery. Yeah. One of the barriers to adopting CD is teaching the team the workflow. If you're on the team, how do you know what to do next? With delivery, we've made it so that you can see where a change is in the workflow at any given time through the interface. And you can apply policy to the workflow. So for example, you can set who's allowed to approve a change or who can ship a change. But instead of just talking about delivery, we thought it might be more fun to deliver a change together, right here, live.
You know, it is April the 1st. We could just tell you that this all exists, but I don't think you're going to believe us. So I think we're sort of on the hook for a live demo.
I think we are, James. For a few weeks now, we've been shipping our corporate website, chef.io, through delivery, thanks to some hard work from Chris Weber. Thanks, Chris. Woo! So we thought what we would do for you today, again, live, is we're going to ship the change to our website that delivers delivery's landing page with delivery. So on the left, current homepage. On the right is what we're trying to ship if this demo succeeds. I'm going to give you an overview of how our demo is going to go, so you can kind of have that preview, and then we'll get started. I'm going to prepare a change and submit it to the system. Delivery is going to enter a verify stage and run some tests. I'm going to ask James to do some code review for me, and then if we decide that it looks good, we'll hit the approve button. From there, delivery is going to build an artifact of our website and deploy that artifact into an acceptance environment. We'll be able to take a look at the change and see the website as it would be in that environment. If we think it still looks good, we'll click a deliver button, and that'll tell delivery to start deploying and testing our change through a series of environments: union, rehearsal, delivered, and that will make the site live.
Let's go.
All right. All right. I still have VPN. That's amazing. I have a checkout of our corp website on my laptop, and I've prepared a feature branch with the change that is going to launch the landing page. I should say this isn't actually my code. I just get to stand here and ship it. You don't really want me to do the web design work. All right. In order to send this change to delivery, I use delivery's command line tool, and I type delivery review. That submits the change to delivery and launches my web browser and brings me to the page for the change. Our workflow starts in the verify stage. So the workflow consists of a series of stages. Each stage consists of phases that do work to determine whether the goals of that stage have been met. And so we're starting in verify, and the purpose of verify is to determine whether the change is worth the time of a human to review. As you can see, the verify stage, consisting of unit tests, linting, syntax checks, passed. So I think we can do some review now.
Cool. OK, so as Barry said, I'm now a manager, so I don't get to write any code. I don't get to review much code, and when I do, it seems to be on a main stage at ChefConf, which is slightly different than how I used to review code. So let's start the review. As you can see, we don't have to go into details. Our finest minds have fixed this change. But we can go down and see what we can do. This one?
Yeah, let's look. Sure.
This one?
Yeah, that one's good.
So we get to see the diff. There was nothing there before. There's a bunch of HAML. Hey, HAML is how you make HTML look like Erlang. That's a minority joke there.
Nothing wrong with Erlang.
If we were at Erlang Factory, the joke would have went much better. And now, that all looks good. I'm going to close out of here, and we are going to approve the change.
Let's make some comments on it.
OK. Well, delivery is emoji compliant. And if I can spell, it will even be better. So we just got a comment, which Seth just saw. Yay for live updating.
Anyone on the team? Thanks, Tom.
We have a couple of shills in the audience, readily prepared. It's on our VPN. Nobody else can get to it. We're OK.
Did you have?
So I'm going to go to approve. Oh,
wait.
OK.
Did you have a?
I do.
You were going to paste?
You're right. I had my very own GIF that I prepared, my meme for this conference. Thank you.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
So that's going to let you express your full set of emotions about this code via animated GIFs. The killer feature for delivery.
So what James is about to do is approve the code, and that's going to trigger delivery to go to its next stage. What do you think? You ready?
I'm good.
All
yeah,
right.
We're good. There we
Woo!
go.
All right. So James has clicked approve. And what delivery is going to do is move to the next stage. And that stage is build. And what delivery is going to do is produce a potentially releasable artifact for us. In the build stage, we'll merge the code to master. So that's the target branch for this pipeline. We'll rerun the same test that we ran in verify, and then we'll produce that artifact. After that, delivery will provision an acceptance environment if we need one, and deploy our artifact into that acceptance environment. It'll then verify through some automated testing that that deploy went well, and then it'll wait for us to decide whether or not we want to ship it the rest of the way. So that's going to build for a little bit, and I'm going to hand it over to James to tell you about some of the other awesome stuff that we've been up to at Chef.
Let's go back to the deck. So as of November 2014, there is only one Chef server, and it is open source. With this, every member of the Chef community, whether they're a paying customer of Chef software or not, are equally invested in the same core platform. Our community is extremely important to us. Since last year, we've developed an open collaborative process for Chef development. We have an RFC process where any member of the community can propose a design change to any of our products. We have weekly developer meetings in IRC where those changes are discussed and approved, and the project direction is publicly talked about. We have a maintainer structure we've put in place with multiple lieutenants, many of them external to Chef software, who have real decision-making power. Last year, we asked you to help us shape the future of Chef Supermarket, our community cookbook site. You responded, and this year we've got a growing number of external committers to that project. And it's your project. I'd like to talk about some of the new product features that we've shipped recently in the Chef platform. First up, policy files. With policy files, we want to focus your workflow on creating and configuring entire systems rather than configuring individual components. You get to specify precisely which cookbook versions that the Chef client should run and which recipes should be applied in your run list via a single document, the policy file. So when you use a version of the policy file on your testing infrastructure, upload it to the Chef server, the exact same policy file that you used will now be used on your nodes in production as well. So this greatly improves your experience of using Chef to configure your infrastructure. It allows you to test and then promote a full set of artifacts safely from development through to production. You'll know that the configuration of a node you tested is exactly the configuration that you get in production. Audit mode is a new feature that we've added that allows you to evaluate tests inside your Chef client run deployed via recipes. So why might you want to do this? You might be in a brownfield environment where you want to actually check the state of the infrastructure before you run the Chef client for the first time. You might be working under a compliance regime where your auditors require independent test and verify steps of what you've done on your infrastructure. Or you might be a developer, and you're already doing test-driven infrastructure, and you want to run those exact same tests in production as well. Audit mode works by letting you embed server spec into your recipes. In this example here, we're checking that a firewall is enabled, it's running, and it will automatically start on reboot. I'll be talking more about audit mode tomorrow when I talk about compliance and velocity and how some of the features that we have in the platform enables that. Test Kitchen is the best infrastructure testing tool in the world, full stop.
Woo!
It's integrated directly into the Chef DK. It runs on various cloud providers and virtualization technologies, including EC2, Docker, Microsoft Azure, Vagrant, and many more. It's all about streamlining and automating the process of getting infrastructure under test. So I want to take a moment to talk about something that's been a long time coming. A couple of months ago, Fletcher Nickel, lead author of Test Kitchen, said that if Windows support for Test Kitchen was not merged to master, he was not coming to ChefConf. So there's been a mega commit, which people might have seen last week, and I'm excited to say Fletcher's here. So what that means is the exact same great Test Kitchen experience you get on Linux, you now get on Windows. Fletcher's going to be talking more at 1:30 today about Test Kitchen. Speaking of Windows, Windows is a first-class citizen in our ecosystem. We have deep integration with Windows, including native support for PowerShell desired state configuration. Microsoft are adding more and more great functionality into DSC every day, and this has contributed over 100 new resources into Chef. Don't miss Jeffrey Snover from Microsoft tomorrow at 1:15 when he talks about PowerShell from the ground up and how it enables Chef to be a great configuration management platform for Windows workloads. So Chef does a great job describing and automating your software on an individual machine. Chef Provisioning, which we released last year, goes one step further. It describes and automates your whole cluster with Chef, soup to nuts, from hardware to network to software. It delivers on the full promise of infrastructure as code. So when your clusters are now code, your clusters become testable, repeatable, self-healing, and idempotent. And most importantly, they become easy to understand. If you want to hear more about provisioning, don't miss John Kaiser's talk tomorrow at 3:05. So I've been talking, telling you cool stuff. There's a second reason. This really is live. The website's being built. It's being rendered. It's being uploaded. So this is like the first moment where this is going to go off the rails and we really have to start ad-libbing. So no pressure. Seth, how's it look?
Actually, it's looking good. If we could have demo 1 on both screens. You can see that we've successfully deployed into our acceptance environment, and tests have run and passed there. So we can look at our acceptance environment, and I'm going to refresh the page here. And if it worked, we'll see a new web page.
It'll work.
Yeah. So the next step, if we're ready to do that, is to hit the deliver button and have it go the rest of the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. DJ?
Get that deploy music going.
All right. So with clicking that deliver button, delivery, that's so fun. The artifact is on its way out into production. We do that in 3 stages, and the first of that is union. And that's the place where if we had a number of projects that had interdependencies, we would be testing them against each other. And we'll do the same deploy and the same testing. And if those succeed, we'll move it automatically into rehearsal and then out into delivered, where the site will be live. There's a few more things I want to tell you about delivery while we wait for that deploy and before James will have some more to say. Flipping over into, just to show you quick, the output of the unit test. And what you're seeing is the output of the delivery command line tool, delivery job verify. The update just got us there a little bit. That's OK. And running the unit test. And the output you're seeing is the output of a build cookbook. So let's go back to the deck. So build cookbooks in delivery are the way that you control how to build, test, and deploy your projects. And you use Chef and Chef resources to describe those build steps. So you get to use the tool you're familiar with to describe your build. We've written a cookbook called Chef Delivery that knows how to build and test and deploy Chef cookbooks. And I'm super excited to be able to announce that we are open sourcing that cookbook today. Now, the build cookbook just on its own isn't quite as useful without an execution engine that can run those phase jobs expressed as recipes in the cookbook. And that's just what the delivery command line tool can do. So we're going to open source that too. And of course, you can use the delivery command line tool with delivery, but you can use a build cookbook and the command line to execute those phase jobs with your own kit as well. So the command line tool and delivery truck, we're open sourcing those today. They're available. We're really looking forward to engaging with the super bleeding edge builder adopter community that we have to make those tools even more awesome. Meanwhile, the team has been working closely with some early adopter customers, and we continue to iterate on delivery and make it better each day. The landing page will be live very soon, and you can go and learn more about our early access program. We are working as hard as we can to onboard customers into that program as quickly as we can. And finally, if you want some more detail on delivery, you should come hear me speak this afternoon at 3:20. I will give some more detail, give more background, have some more demo, and share a little bit about our journey building a CD tool with CD.
It's me.
Back to you, James.
So I want to just finish up by talking a little bit about the Chef platform and how it enables the workflow. So Chef DK gives you a first-class local development environment. And Chef Delivery now gives you a way to flow changes for both applications and infrastructure to flow from that local development environment through to production. Chef Server is a first-class policy and execution engine to control the infrastructure. And Chef Provisioning allows you to easily and dynamically transform and grow that infrastructure. Combining these products together, you now have a lot of power. More changes are happening because they're easier to do. Your rate of innovation increases, but with that comes some risk. To control that risk that comes with increased velocity, you need systems that provide increased safety, giving you trust in the changes. What you need is a way to visualize, record, and act on those changes. Chef Analytics gives you that. It ties together the unified view of all the change. Whether what you want is operational visibility or regulatory compliance, Chef Analytics lets you do this. We understand that Chef isn't the only system living in your data center or cloud infrastructure. It's your data, and it's valuable to you when you combine it with the other operational data that you already have and send it to the best-of-breed systems you might already be using for correlation and analysis. So a key aspect of Chef Analytics is a flexible and powerful notification and routing system. We've got several integrations already: email, HipChat, Slack, IRC, and a flexible webhook notifier that you can integrate with any of your own systems. And we've got many more planned. In particular, I'm delighted to announce today a new Splunk app for Chef. This combines all the data that Chef gathers and provides pre-built visualizations inside Splunk so that you can have insights and drill into problems. And you can install this today, if the URL's live, from the Splunk App Store. I didn't check that when I wrote the presentation. It's going through approval. We need delivery. If you want to learn more about any of the things I've talked about, come talk to us on the Chef booth or check out those talks I mentioned. Thanks for listening, and back to Seth.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Can we get demo 1, please? Can we get demo 1 on both screens? And we'll wrap this up. Yeah. Cool. So our deploy went all the way out. And it made it through the last stage delivered. And I've got our homepage here. And we should go out with some music. And that's what we've got for you.
Okay, so let's talk about containers. Containers is something that Chef, we're very, very enthusiastic about. We love what's going on in that world. Chris referenced it. You'll see and hear a lot from us about containers throughout ChefConf. Please look for it. I thought I'd just take a minute and talk about it. My belief is for customers with a diverse compute environment, including containers, a consistent automation plane becomes very, very desirable. So we'd love to engage you guys in that conversation around containers. Okay, let me shift gears a little bit and talk about a company that probably we all know, Intuit, and I want to talk about their own journey through velocity. I'm thrilled to have Troy Otilio from Intuit join us. Troy's Director of Cloud and Social Platforms. Intuit's a big joint Chef and AWS customer. Troy's been at Intuit almost 9 years. He's got a deep background in software development. Intuit's got a great story around innovation. I'd love to ask Troy to come out and join me.
Thank you. Wow, look at that. Okay. Money. Okay, there's a tough spot to follow. We just saw Star Wars, and I'm coming out here. I suppose we wouldn't have any Disney experiences if we didn't have time and money, which are benefits that Intuit promises to deliver. All right. So today I'm going to share the story of how a company with 3,000 developers and hundreds of apps in 1 year pivoted to awesome infrastructure through Chef. I'm going to start by introducing Intuit. Our motto is to simplify the business of life. Kind of a cool motto. And one of the things that, a story I can share around this is when I talk about something that happened to me this last week. So my daughter, Camille, who's 18 years old, got a job this last summer, and she's away at college, so she came back for spring break, and every day she was back for spring break. I'm like, Camille, we got to work on your taxes, because she needs to learn how to do her own taxes. And every day she said, yeah, we'll do it later. Well, It comes to Sunday, it's 2 hours before she has to catch her flight, and I'm like, Camille, we never did your taxes, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to do her taxes. She's like, Dad, taxes should be simple. You've been telling me this TurboTax product is easy to use. I'm like, oh, all right, let's see. So she downloads the app on her mobile phone, and within minutes, she's starting to fill it out. Looks like she's texting. She's kind of flashing through it. Doesn't really ask me any questions. I'm getting a little nervous. Next thing, it's time to import her W-2. She takes a picture of it. It uploads OCR. She checks the data. Finally asks me a question. We finish the experience. She's getting a $100 refund, and it's done. And I'm like, wow, that only took 30 minutes. That's pretty cool. Our products actually work. That's awesome. Now, of course, I expect her to say, Dad, you actually work on awesome products. What she said is, I told you that would only take 30 minutes. Why were you bugging me all week? So, oops, clicked one too many. Can we go back? Can I do that? OK, so our mission, Intuit's mission, is to improve customers' financial life so profoundly they can't imagine going back to the old way. We serve 3 ecosystems, if you will. One of those is the consumer ecosystem with products you already know. And then we serve small businesses, startups, very small businesses, all the way up to growing businesses with QuickBooks Online and payroll. And then customers and businesses alike need accountants, especially businesses. And accountants are served by products like Lacert and Online Tax. Intuit was founded in 1983, which is actually when I graduated from high school, and has grown to about 8,000 employees across multiple locations throughout the US and abroad. We have 3,000 talented and passionate engineers who ultimately serve 50 million customers. And today, while we started in desktop, the majority of our revenue now comes from online and mobile. So looking ahead, online and mobile is growing rapidly for us. We expect it to grow, and you can see the graph on the left, number of customers over the coming years. At the same time, Intuit also has a big opportunity with global. Today, we operate in 7 countries. We have products for 7 countries, and we expect to grow to 20 in the next 2 or 3 years. And at the same time, Intuit is passionate and fixated on maintaining the trust we have with our customers, privacy and security, and especially in the face of the ever-evolving security threats that we all know about in our industry. So none of this is possible without engineers. Intuit seeks to be the #1 premier innovative growth company. It's actually something we say all the time, and we really mean it. And this means creating an awesome environment for engineers to do the best work in their life, to solve big problems. In fact, we're a 30-year-old startup, so even though we've been around 30 years, we still practice startup techniques. So we have small 6-person autonomous teams that are given the time and tools to innovate. And engineers tackle exciting problems like mobile and big data, and in infrastructure challenges such as active-active multi-site deployments. OK. As a company, adoption of Chef is accelerating, and let me give you one example. So can I raise the house lights for a minute? We have over 40 of our top ops and engineering folks at this conference. Can I ask them to stand for a moment? All right. Where are they? Look at that. All right. That is awesome. And that's what I call like passion at scale. I don't know how many we had last year, but I guarantee you it wasn't 40. I encourage actually the audience to engage these folks. I'm sure you can teach them some things and maybe learn a little bit. And then especially I'd encourage you to attend our talk tomorrow. I think it's at 3, where we're going to talk about our cultural evolution through Chef. So besides just getting the raw benefits of Chef, we can talk about some of the collaboration and how we got there. I think there's some interesting lessons in there. OK, so how did we get here? Why are we using Chef? What happened? So this starts with an interesting story. So in 2010, we were primarily hosted out of a single data center in San Diego that happened to be at the end of a runway, actually into the Miramar Air Force Base. you might know Top Gun, Miramar Air Force Base. And we actually had 2 separate catastrophic events. No, they didn't involve any aircraft. But I don't like the way you think. But it did involve downtime for our customers. And for example, what this meant was Intuit customers, employers, couldn't run their payroll, couldn't pay their employees. This is catastrophic and unacceptable for an online business, right? That just can't happen. So in response, Intuit embarked on a mission. We called it HADR, High Availability Disaster Recovery, that involved first commissioning a new data center up in Quincy, Washington, and establishing a colo in Las Vegas. And with that, we migrated out of San Diego hundreds of apps over a multi-year period, and in addition, deployed all of our systems active across 2 data centers. And that was a lot of work. We didn't leverage Chef at the time, and we used our old tried and true approaches of Word documents, runbooks, Perl scripts. You know the story. It was slow and it was error prone, right? But we did it. At the same time, we were exploring AWS, really for its global reach and even its added benefits to productivity. And we learned there that automation is not just a nice to have, it's a must have. You cannot succeed in an elastic cloud without automation. And in addition, there's security benefits. So through both these experiences, we started experimenting with tools like Chef, and we both sides of the house, if you will, or both efforts kind of came to the realization that Chef is core to our future, and we're excited about that. Okay, so some of the benefits that we see, I think a lot of you already know about, but I'll just point in a few. So again, security is so key to us, and it seems like lately, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems like lately there's a lot more zero-day bugs in the operating system. And what that means for us, the way we like to remediate is actually to redeploy the entire operating system, not just patch, because you might, who knows if the attacker got in and did something. We'd like to wipe it clean. And we've moved our remediation times from longer than hours, days, to hours. And this is critical for us, because again, we don't have customers without security and trust. We also have increased our speed, so we've heard a lot about velocity here. I can attest to that. Because our deployment failure rates have been reduced by 90%, we now have more time to build awesome applications, so my daughter can do her taxes in 30 minutes, which is what I care about. And then lastly, we've seen a real uptick in collaboration and efficiency in our DevOps environment. In one business unit alone, we had 30 different teams using different tools and techniques, and yeah, they try and collaborate. Now they've come around to use one repository, one set of cookbooks and recipes. And in fact, I've already plugged the talk, but that's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Okay, so I talked about this one-year change. So in preparing for this talk, I went around, I collected some stats, and I was actually surprised at how far we've come in just 1 year. So we've gone from hundreds of servers to thousands of servers under Chef control. We've started with dozens of trained Chef experts, and now we have hundreds. And we have a lot of great reusable code in the form of cookbooks and recipes. So what's next? Well, we're already very excited about the benefits we got, and so we're going to continue to adopt more broadly. I'm also really excited to hear about the CI/CD. CI/CD is a critical outcome for Intuit for all the reasons you might imagine, and so I'm really excited to explore Chef delivery, or we're really excited. And then lastly, I think it's our turn to start contributing back to the Chef community, and I know my team is very eager to do so. Yeah. So with that, I really thank you for your time. Hope you learned something about Intuit. I described how we're using Chef and looking forward to coming back next year and maybe talking to some of you. If you want to hit me on Twitter, my handle is Troy O. Okay, thank you very much.
Troy, thank you. That's great. Really good. Yeah, by the way, I love Troy's story about his daughter. I actually hadn't heard that before. And I can match that story. My son, who's a college freshman, did one of his college apps entirely from his mobile phone. So I think the next generation is giving us some coaching on how they want to receive their software. Okay, next I'd like to welcome Dr. Joseph Langerman and Justin Arbuckle. They're going to talk about the story of Standard Bank from South Africa. Joseph is head of development of Standard Bank. He's a seasoned software veteran. He's also an adjunct associate professor at the University of Johannesburg. And I'd like to invite them both up to talk about their journey. Great.
Hey, Darren.
Great.
Hi, baby.
I should. And just to finish Justin's introduction, he's Chef's Chief Enterprise Architect and also our VP of EMEA. So thank you. Welcome both.
Wow, what a job. Good morning. Having a good time? Yes! So I have to follow Star Wars, delivery, test kitchen on Windows, but we have an awesome story. So part of my job is I get to work on compliance at velocity. And I'd like to tell you about why you should care about that. So James has already mentioned it, and we've got some awesome material coming over the next few days on it. But I'd like to start with a story. It's a story about a prison. So about 200 years ago, a philosopher called Jeremy Bentham. This is when all the developers go, oh, my God, what is he doing? So anyway, a philosopher called Jeremy Bentham, about 200 years ago, he had this idea that in order to have a more humane prison, you could create one, and there's a picture of it behind me, you could create one with a tower in the middle, where from that tower you could see all of the inmates all of the time. And the inmates wouldn't know when they were being surveilled. The basic idea was, in this context, you could have less complex rules. Because the people being surveilled, the people being watched, would kind of assume, well, this kind of feels right. And so the idea was that this would be a far more humane way of building a prison. But of course, jump forward about 150 years to the 1970s, and a philosopher, personal favorite of Adam's, Michel Foucault, realized that there's a real downside to this approach. And that is, in that world, you tend to normalize your behavior. You become less creative, right? So how many of you have been in a situation where you've been handed a stack of documents to comply with, written by someone who's interpreted some regulation, and asked you to interpret it and then be responsible for the consequences? Hands up. Right. So this thing used to be called the panopticon. So do you guys feel like you're in a panopticon sometimes? Now, the fact of the matter is that what compliance at velocity is all about is Chef is a unifying language, and you've already seen the discussion about delivery. Delivery has taken practice and turned it into code. We've got infrastructure and applications as code because that's what we do every day. But the third critical piece is policy as code, and being able to encode the rules and the regulations that we have to abide by every single day. And the thing that Chef is able to do is by providing a formal language, it's able to ensure that you are absolutely clear about exactly what that interpretation is. Because the fact of the matter is if you've got compliance that you can't automate, it isn't compliance at all. Now, we'll be doing a huge amount of work on compliance at velocity over the next few months. I really would ask you to tweet me. We'd love to hear your stories, love to hear your insights during the conference. Please go to the demos that are over the next few days. Now, another part of my job is I get to work with some amazing clients internationally. So in just the same way as code is unifying practice and infrastructure and applications and policy, Chef is unifying the world. How about that? Yes? Yeah. So Chef's unifying the world, and I'd love to introduce you to my friend. I'm going to introduce him in Afrikaans because this is a truly international show. Dit is vir my 'n groot plesier om julle almal aan my briljante maat Joseph Te voorstel. Dankie.
Dear Boer. Now, Justin was worried about following Disney, but I have to follow Justin. That's even harder. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here. My colleagues and I actually flew across the world, or halfway around the world to be precise, to come and join you today. And there's two things I want to do today. And the first one, and the most important one, is I want to thank you. Because I don't think you realize what impact the DevOps community is having on companies and on the software engineering industry. You've heard in the introduction that I teach at the university. I teach software engineering, and please just keep it down. I teach project management as well. PMBOK, actually. And it is becoming very hard for me in the last 2 years, because each time I put, and this is the 7th version of the textbook now, when I put it up, I say, you know what? This person doesn't know what they're talking about. Let's move on. Let's move on. And really, the impact that you guys are making is incredible. And I think you need to give yourself applause for that. My other job is I'm the head of development for the biggest and the largest bank in South Africa and also Africa. And that is Standard Bank. We are a bank that's 150 years old, and we have a lot of heritage. Now, you know, you clever people, so you should translate heritage. It actually means legacy. And the legacy is not only your systems, it's also your people and the way your people think. And a year and a half ago, we decided we need to become more faster. We need to become agile. All of the things you've heard today, we wanted to become that. And then when we thought about it, we realized it's not about the tool so much. It's not about the process. How do we change the hearts and minds of people so that when the tool comes and the process comes, we are actually able to consume that? And what we did was we started a cultural transformation. Now, I don't know how it works here in the States, but South Africa is very hierarchical. You know, God speaks to the archangels speak to the angels speak to the humans, there's some demons thrown in there, some chaos, all of that type of thing. But that's how instructions get executed. And our normal modus operandi would have been, let's take the manco of the bank or the exco. And IT in Standard Bank's about 7,000 people. Let's take these guys and we go and we workshop for 2 days out in the bush. You know, we're from Africa. We go to the bush. And we go work out what our culture should be. And we actually, when we sat back, realized that's not going to work, because that is actually counter to what we want to achieve. And what we did was we asked all of our people, please go read up on the great companies of the world. Go read up on DevOps, continuous delivery, agile, all of these fancy words. And bar the thought, we asked them to write a test. It's an online test that took about 2 hours. You only got invited to this offsite if you passed the test. I got 14 out of 20, so I just made it. And we were serious about this. Even if you were, in American terms now, a senior vice president or vice president, if you didn't pass the test, you didn't get the invite. So we had 120 people who made the cut, and we took them away. And we said, you guys, you've seen everything now, you've read up on these companies. Tell us, what do you want the culture to be? How do you want this place to look like? And they came up with these 7 statements. And it is as simple as things like giving power back to the individual by telling them, you have permission, you are a leader. But also telling them, you're not an island on your own, we work as teams. It's about the team. And then telling people and trying to bring back into our company, it's all about people. And then, you know, the basic lean principle, we're putting the customer in the center of everything we're doing. And then I'm sure it doesn't work like this in the States, but in our culture, the more complicated something is, the more clever people, or the more people think, the cleverer you are. You know, and now we're saying, make things simple. And we've built this kata things in, that kata mindset, which is we constantly make stuff better. And then the last one, trying to give people proud, how can I put it, to be proud in their craft. We want to put our name on it. And that is the fertile land which we try to create. And then we found Justin. I said, Justin, we've done all of this. Please come help us. We now need a tool and we need a process. And what we've done is, Justin flew in and they did a 2-day workshop with us. And we've invited our digital team from developers, executives, all of those guys. And they did some DevOps training. They've done some chef training. And after 2 days, you know what we've done? We as management walked out of the room. We said, you guys go tell us what project you want. You guys tell us how you're going to do it. There's only one rule. And that rule is, sorry, I need to take off my jacket. This is not, I want to show you here at the back. Don't be a chop. Now, that in South African terms, how would I translate that into American? Justin, explain to us.
Don't be a dick.
So our job as management were very simple. We gave the guys one rule, don't be a dick, and we told them, you're getting a t-shirt. And we left them alone. And the brief were as simple as this. It is middle November. December is a dead month in the Southern Hemisphere. It is the summer holidays. And you know, we like holidays, so it's almost 4 weeks of deadness. You know, we go to the bush and stuff. And we had a town hall early Feb where we told the guys, come and demo your project in front of all of IT. You basically have 2 months. And they picked one of the hardest projects there is, our internet banking project. And they took prepaids, they used Chef, they formed a feature team, and they delivered this stuff. And what I want to do is, I want these guys to get up. Because these are our heroes. These are our samurais. Mark Figuera, are you here? Where's Mark?
Over there.
Mark Stan, Derek Chung, Marcus Tolkien. And then the guys, we couldn't fly out here. Camille de Vleeschouwer, Carl Venter, and Marco from the Linux side. You guys keep standing. Gentlemen, in all seriousness, on behalf of the Standard Bank Group, the executive of Standard Bank, we want to thank you. These guys aren't even old enough to sport a Californian beard. Marcus is trying, as you can see there in the middle. But you showed us how to do the future, and we thank you for it. They've taken it to deploy for us. Internet banking takes 6 months from dev to get it into production. Because there's cabs, there's S-cabs, there's change control. Okay, you can sit now, you know. You see, they just like to bask in the glory. And they've brought it down to 18 minutes. 6 months to 18 minutes.
Woo!
And for us, that is what ninjas are about. They bring those type of things. And I want to show you something, and they didn't all even see this, is all of this cultural change, the chef work, the DevOps work, it did a couple of things for us. We were a sick company. McKinsey does this OHI index. Now, again, I'm sure McKinsey is not part of this audience. It's not your type of consultants, but we use them. They told us we were sick. Our organizational health were 58. After we did this, after we did the cultural stuff, after we did the DevOps stuff, suddenly we went up by 12%. That is what happened to our organizational health. Then our internet banking deployment came down from 6 months to 18 minutes. Even better. Now, Justin would love this. We are compliant. Our security testing, previously pen testing, took us 2 weeks. It is now down to 48 hours. This is stuff that is unheard of for a bank of our size.
Yeah.
And the best of all is, and this is what the head of infrastructure asked me to put in, they have predictability in infrastructure configuration. For the first time, we have predictability there. And that's why I said, when I started, I said I want to do two things. I want to tell you a great story, but I also wanted to thank you. So Chef, Justin, thank you. You guys put us on a great victory journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. Hey, that's great. Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, great stories. Let's see if we can bring it home. So the first thing I'd like to do is enlist all of you to help us light up the Twittersphere. In fact, hopefully you already are to some degree. So what we're going to do is during this week, we're going to look through our very favorite tweets from you guys, and we're going to pick those favorites, and we're going to send a delight bar your way. And I'm not talking about an energy bar. I'm talking about a bar that has some sort of bartender. And the two that we came up with was a bacon bar or a chocolate chip cookie bar, but we're open to other suggestions. So please get those tweets out there. We want to send a little Workday delight your way. Yeah. So two last things and we'll close it up. The first thing is I want to talk about all of Chef. And I've had a bunch of conversations. You know, I have a chance to talk to great technologists and CTOs. And what I've started to realize is some of these folks have a little bit of a stale view of Chef or even current practices around automation. Our industry's moving very quickly. Our company's moving very quickly. So a big part of what we're working on over the next couple of days is sharing what we're doing, not just with Chef Server, but all the parts of Chef that Seth and that James talked about earlier. And this includes both our open source work and our commercial work. And so you can hear it from me, we will always be deeply, deeply committed to our open source platform. The second thing I want to talk about is developers. And developers are really the lifeblood of Chef. It's what every day our team thinks about, and how do we make the life of a developer better and easier. And I mean developer in a very broad sense, both infrastructure and application developers. In fact, as the infrastructure world just morphs into software-defined everything, I think we'll find the role of an administrator changes pretty significantly. In fact, I think today a system administrator is actually an infrastructure developer. And if someone's out there and there's a sysadmin and they're sort of fretting about this new world of code, my coaching is don't. Don't fret. I know everyone out there is smart enough to learn some Ruby or some Python and to write a Chef recipe or two. And by the way, Chef is investing very heavily in Learn Chef to make it very easy. So if you haven't checked it out, please do check out Learn Chef. And for those of you that are adept at both DevOps and Chef, your future is super, super bright. I don't know if you saw an article that just came out. Business Insider ranked those with DevOps and Chef skills as among the highest paid in the technology field. And the reason they're the highest paid is they're the ones that are making the biggest impact on their organizations. I want to thank you all for your time today. Get out there, go for it, have a great ChefConf. Thank you very much.